So I'm going to be working here on this Projects to Go bag, and there's two options for this. You can have it open, or you can have an optional drawstring. I'm not going to be doing the drawstring. I'm going to be doing this open one. So let's get going. I've already cut out all of my fabric. These are my handles here, and I've got two really long pieces, and what I did was I've already fused my Shape Flex to the inside, and it had me cut it in two short pieces. Let's see if I can find, yeah, had me cut it in two short pieces, so the two short pieces equal the whole length of the handle. And then when I fused it, I kind of overlapped the two pieces, so you can see this one right here is overlapping that one right there a little bit. And then afterwards, I just folded it in half so I could find my center line all the way down. And then I opened it and I took each raw edge and folded it into the center, and I pressed that all the way down. And then I went back and finally folded it in half, and I gave it a good press. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch. You can do as much stitching as you want, but I'm just going to stitch on this side all the way down, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to stitch on the other side. If you want to do a lot of stitch lines, like here on the picture, you see all those stitch lines there, you can do that, or you can just do two, or you can do a fancy stitch, whatever you would like. I think I'm just going to do two. So I'm going to do that to both my handles. Alright, so this is the main body of my bag, and it has already been lined with, I did, I forgot which one I did. One of the interfacings is under there, and then the fusible fleece is, see, you can see it right there. I fused one of the interfacing, whichever one. There's two types, the lightweight and the medium weight. I forget which one I used first. Anyway, the interfacing that belongs on the main body, and then the fusible fleece right over it. So here is my handle, and I have measured in according to the pattern from this side in and from this side in, and I have clipped it in place. And then you also have to measure down from the top down so many inches according to the pattern, and that's going to be like your stop sew line. So you're going to start sewing here, and I'm probably just going to sew on the line I already did when I stitched my handles. Gonna sew on that up to my mark here, then go over and then down on this side and this side, the same thing. And then I'm going to attach my second handle to my other side and repeat the same process. Here's what it looks like with the handle sewed on. Not going anywhere. Now you could have sewed closer and added some more stitch lines. I just chose to sew over what I already had, and then I went there and down. Here's what the back looks like. Alright, so here I have, this is going to be my outside pocket, which is this part right here. And this is my lining, which comes from my accent fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to align raw edge to raw edge all the way down, and then I'm going to sew all the way down, attaching the two pieces. And I'm going to do that for both because I have one on the right, two pockets. That one goes on one side of the bag, this one goes on the other side of the bag. Okay, so after you sew them together, you're going to open them up. This is the wrong side of the fabric. Now your accent fabric is going to be much wider or longer, however you want to call it, than your green fabric. The reason being is this purple, the extra, is going to create that kind of binding look at the top. So you're going to fold it down, okay, until raw edge meets raw edge, and you'll see that gives you that nice peekaboo kind of binding looking edge at the top of the pocket. And then you're just going to press all the way down, and I'm going to do that to both pockets. Alright, so here is my pockets. There's the back, it's all purple, pretty purple, and here is the front, and there is my raw edges. Okay, on to the next step. So now I've just opened it, and this was the interfacing that I hadn't used yet. I think this is a medium weight one. And it doesn't come down because it wanted me to butt it up against, like, there's the crease where I ironed it, butt up against that crease. And it wants me to adhere it to the main fabric that's going to be on the outside. So I'm just going to fold that back in half like that, and then I'm going to press it, so I will fuse it to the main body of fabric there. Just make sure everything is smoothed out where it's supposed to be, and then I'm just going to give that some heat, and that should adhere to the main body piece fabric. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, they have a wonderful diagram on the back side of page 1 where I'm going to mark out all of my pockets. Okay, and you're going to have to do that for both of the pockets. You mark it out. Now I kind of reversed this because it wanted me to mark with something that disappears, and then it wanted me to apply this interfacing. But if I mark out my pocket pieces before I apply this, right, when I apply this, especially to the main body of my fabric, all my marks are going to disappear. So I just switched it up, and I'm applying the interfacing before I do all the marking of my pockets, because that just didn't make much sense to me. Alright, so you can do whatever you want, but this right here would terminate all my marking lines, because I like to use friction pens. Okay, so there we go. That should be nice and fused in, and I'm going to do the other one, and then I'm going to get to marking all my pocket pieces according to the diagram with my disappearing friction pens. That won't disappear now. So that is what it looks like, all marked up on one side. Now I've got to do the other side, and I've just used my friction pens here that I got from the Quilts a Cow, and I've got whole bunch of colors, but since this is dark, I thought black would work the best. Okay, so I believe you open this up and put right sides together, and I'm gonna put some clips or pins in everywhere, and then you are going to sew down the short sides top to bottom and along the side top to bottom, and then once you do that, you're going to take this seam and press it open. Okay, so you want the seam to open up and press it away so they're open. And then we'll see how this goes. Alright, so here's my seam pressed open, and then it looks like I just refold this in half. So I'm going to set this down while I do it. Alright, so now it's kind of like one long tube, but anyway, I've got my pleats here that I'm making. I'm just pleating it right now, and then I'll take it over to the iron and really give everything a good press, and then kind of clip it into place so it makes really nice crisp lines. But anyway, here is the center line, and then I have these two lines, and I'm going to be folding this line into the center line and this line into the center line. So just kind of pinch it, and I just want it to come over. It doesn't come over a lot. There's not a whole bunch of fabric that comes over, but just enough there. Again, it's just folding it so black line to black line. I'm gonna put that there, and then I'm gonna take this one, I'm gonna pinch it, and then just fold that line. Fold that line into that line, and give it a clip, and this one as well. So this can be a little bit tedious. There's that. And then I'm gonna go to the next one and do the same thing. So I'm gonna fold that in. There's that. And then that. Yeah, I hope you kind of get the idea. I don't know But anyway, I would be at the iron just doing this by ironing everything, and I'm gonna do that soon. And then there's another one. Take that line and pinch it and fold it in. It's a little, there we go. And that. There's that one. I think it went a little overboard on that. There it is. Yeah, I went a little too much. Don't want too much extra or any extra because then it won't fit. Where'd it go? Okay, so there's that one. And then just got a few more to do here. Alright, so I'm going to finish this up. I hope gives you kind of an idea what you're supposed to do, and I'm going to do it all the way around and then take it over and really give each pleating a really good press to make it nice and crisp. Alright, so this is what it looks like. You can see the pressing really helps hold it together. I just put a clip there on the bottom. Ooh, that one came out. But anyway, I've got my nice iron line, so it's much easier. So this is like the top, this is the bottom. And so what I'm going to do now is I am going to set this aside, and I'm going to grab my two main back pieces with my handles. Alright, so diagram 5 is where you take the main parts with your straps and you're going to mark the lines. I believe we're going to sew on that. So I did it to both, and I'm going to grab both, and I'm going to put right sides to right sides, and you can pin, you can clip, you can free do it. And once everything is aligned, I'm just going to sew down the sides here, and then I'm going to iron that seam open on both sides. Alright, so there's my main body, here's my pocket, and like this one right here was the side seam, and this is not necessarily going to match up with like the side seam of your bag. So on each side of the main body you marked 4 lines, and that's where your sew lines are going to mark up. So in between the pleats, you have a center line, right? You folded them into the center line. Well, this center line is going to match up with one of the lines that you drew on the main body. And once you have it lined up, you can pin it, you can clip it, you can freestyle it. You're going to sew. I sewed from the bottom up and made sure to back tack up here to reinforce it. And you're going to do that all the way around, matching that center line between the pleats up with one of those lines that you made. Right, this is the side seam of my main bag, and you can see that a pocket goes over it. So there, and like all the way around. So once that's done, takes a little bit of time, but you might have to remark that center line. Or what I did was I just refolded my pleats and took my pen and then marked right between the pleats because they were folded into the center. That might have been brave of me. All right, so now that I've got that done, it doesn't matter if the bag gets wrinkled, it will totally iron out. And then you're going to refold these pleats at the bottom and pin them, clip them, whatever. And once you have them refolded, then you're going to sew all the way around the bottom edge using a scant 1/4 inch seam. And that will help hold all those pleats there in place. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. So that's what it kind of looks like so far. Alright, so while it doesn't look the prettiest, it's going to be hidden, but there it is all the way around. So it just holds those bottom pleats and everything together on the bottom. So that's what the top looks like. Okay, on to the next part. Alright, so these are my bag bottom pieces, and what I've done is I've cut out what I needed to out of each side on both of them, and now I am going to lay them together. I'm going to line everything up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew along the bottom edge first, and once that's sewn, I'm going to press that seam open, and then I'm going to come up to this side, sew that together, and then press those seams open. Alright, so now that the bottom is sewn and I've pressed that seam open and my sides are sewn and I press the seam open, we're going to box these corners. So I'm just going to take this bottom seam and this side seam, I'm going to pull it open, I'm going to match up these seams, and then I'm just going to sew all the way down, and that will create a boxy corner, and then I'll repeat the process to the other side. Alright, so that's what it looks like, and then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to match up my seams there, should lay nice and flat, and then you can put a pin, you can clip it, or you can just do it, and then you're going to sew all the way down. Okay, so I turned the bag right side out, and then I also, when I finished this, I turned it right side out, and then I just put this inside, as you can see here. I just put it inside the bottom of the bag, and I matched right sides to right sides. I lined up my side seam with my side seam here on the bottom of the bag, side seam to side seam. There's my boxed corners. There's my middle that's going to run across the bottom. And then I just went around and matched the raw edges together in a circle and clipped everything together. And now I'm going to sew this all together. So I've sewed a few bags before, and it's always useful to sew on the inside instead of trying to sew like on this side. So I just put it in, so I'm kind of like sewing the inner. As I turn it, I'll remove the clips, and I'm just going to sew completely around. It is a 1/4 of an inch seam all the way around, and just go slow. Curves can be hard, but just go slow, take your clips, readjust, and you'll make it all the way around. This is called the third or whatever finger, and it really helps. Like, you can just, it helps lay things down, and you can really get in there close. It really helps around the edges. And so if you don't have one, I got this from the Quilted Cow. It was on sale, Jennifer's red pen. And there it is. I'm back to the beginning. And I'm just going to sew over that and back tack a little bit to reinforce it, and then just check and make sure everything is good. Alright, so turn right side out. There it is, the bottom of my bag sewed on. Say, it looks pretty decent for me sewing the bottom of the bag on. And there's where it kind of looks. Now it looks like we got to do this inside. Looks like it needs a lining, and then it will need some binding. But, ooh, looking good, looking good. Alright, I had a little bit of puckering because, a little bit of pleating puckering because it was just a little bit bigger, so I kind of had to gather the fabric a little bit. But overall, pretty good, pretty good. So this is my pocket fabric, and I've already ironed it in half to make my crease, and now I'm taking this fusible fleece, and this is the gluey side, and it's face down, and it's butted up against the crease. It's not butted to or aligned with the raw edge, it's just aligned up here with the crease. Then I'm going to fold this over, and I think you already know what I'm going to do next. I am going to press all of that, okay? So it adheres to the fabric, and then I'm going to do it with my second one because I still have a second piece over there. Alright, here's my lining piece. I have the other one underneath, and where it says sew the lining, that's with step diagram 9. I measured up so far from the bottom up and I drew a line there. And then this is my pocket piece that I just finished. I was just folded in half and I have my fusible fleece. This is the fold and this is the raw edge. So you're gonna take it, mine doesn't have a right or a wrong side. But anyway, this would be the right side, that's the fold. And you're gonna align that raw edge with the line that you drew and marked. Pin or clip in place, and then you're gonna sew, whoops, not quite. Then you're gonna sew 1/4 inch seam all the way down to attach it. And so I'm gonna do that to both of my pieces right now. All right, so once that part is done, you're gonna flip this up just like that. All right, and then you are going to baste or sew the sides with a scant 1/4 inch. So not a full 1/4 inch, just a little bit less, but just to get it basted. And then for diagram 10, under sew the lining, you're going to be marking out your pockets that you're going to sew on for the inside. All right, so I'm going to baste, then I'm going to mark, and then my pocket lines according to the diagram, and then I'm going to sew on those lines, and then I'm going to repeat the process to the second one. All right, so here's what it looks like. Just basted that down. I did a center line there, measured in a little bit from there, and then sewed. This was not something that they asked. However, if you open it up, you can see that raw edge, and so I wanted to kind of hide that raw edge, so I sewed up from this line to kind of encase that raw edge that is in there so it doesn't really fray and stuff. And so that's what mine looks like. And now I have some marking, and I'll just take it over to the iron, and whatever I drew on it will just completely erase, and I'm going to do it to the second one. All right, so now that I've got the linings done, I measured out the notches in the corner, and I've cut both of them out from the bottom. Make sure you do it to the bottom, not the top. And now you're just going to, just like when you're making your bag button, you're just gonna right side to right side, align everything. You're gonna go sew your bottom first, open and press that seam open. Then you're gonna sew your sides together, press those seam opens, and then we're gonna make the boxed corners. All right, so that's what the inside looks like. Got our pockets all the way around, got the bottom, boxed my corners there. Looking pretty good. Now we're gonna move on to the next step. Alright, so I'm on the last page, which is page 4, assembling the bag. I am not doing the optional drawstring, so if you are doing that, I mean, after you've made it, the first thing you're going to do is put your lining inside your bag. You have wrong side here of the lining to wrong side. I've matched up my seams, side seams, and then I've clipped all the way around. So I'm going to sew all the way around the top to attach my lining to my the main part of my bag, and then there's a couple extra steps in there for attaching the drawstring part, which you would then put in raw edge to raw edge and then sew again all the way around to attach that. So I'm going to go ahead and sew all the way around, and then it's time for the binding to finish this off. Alright, so we got to make the binding. This is my binding strip. I measured it so it's the right length. And then, so I'm going to bring this because we're going to make a loop. So I'm going to attach short side to short side, right side to right side. And I'm going to sew that together, and then I'm going to press that seam open. Alright, after I sewed that seam flat, I folded it in half and pressed it. So now it's just this circular tube. And now for attaching it to your bag, there's some, there's options. You can attach it here to like the right side of your bag, and then once you sew it on, you can flip it over and hand sew it, or you can attach it, your binding here, which is what I'm gonna do, I think, because I'm not hand sewing, to the inside of your bag. And then once it's sewn on, then you'll flip the binding over, and then you can machine stitch it down, which is what I'm going to do with a decorative stitch or stitching in the ditch. I don't know. I'll decide while I'm sewing it. Okay, so just really quick before I sew it, there it is, all pinned on the inside. This is the folded edge, and I have raw edge to raw edge. So now I'm going to sew it, flip it over, and sew again, and we'll be done. All right, here it is, all done. There's one side. There's all these pockets here that can pull out because of the pleating. There's all the pockets on the inside and the beautiful green fabric that I have. And there's the other side. Some of my binding, binding isn't my friend, but you know, I make it work, what I can do. But there it is. That is, oh, I should probably grab the other side. So there it is. Ta-da! All done.